All right, we might as well stick in the AFC. Why don't we talk a little bit about Cincinnati? You had brought them up earlier. Cincinnati and San Diego had an extremely entertaining game to watch, a 49-41 victory for San Diego, but many people don't really know what happened early in the game when it was 28-7 Cincinnati, and they just kind of imploded defensively. And, I mean, Palmer has his first 400-yard-plus game. Chad Johnson has 260 yards receiving. He has 2 touchdowns, and yet that still isn't enough to win. When you score 41 points, you would assume that's enough to win. But they gave up 49 points. So well, I mean, granted, San Diego has the touchdown machine. Yep. LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers is playing amazing football right now. But how do you blow a 28-7 lead?
And this is a problem that plagued Cincinnati last year, and ultimately what killed them in the playoffs. You can say that the Palmer injury killed them in the playoffs, but you can also point to the fact that their defense could not stop a Steelers running game because John Kitna played very well in that game for the first half. And just part of their problem is they have not been able to figure out how to plug the holes on that defense. And because they haven't been able to do that, a power running team, a team like San Diego who, they like to throw the ball a little bit, but we know Marty Schottenheimer, we know he loves to pound the ball with Michael Turner and LaDainian Tomlinson. When you face a team like that, they can just run at you all day, and they know that they're going to wear you down, and they know they're going to find success. And, that's one of the things that right now the Colts are 9-0, but they have the same problem. They can't stop the run. Cincinnati's problem is they can't particularly stop the pass either.
Defense, pretty much.
And, any game when you give up, 180 yards and 4 touchdowns to a running back is obviously not the defensive performance you want to see.
No, not at all.
And I just think that it's really hindering their offense this year because it's tougher now because Carson Palmer cannot keep that team on the field for long, sustained drives, be it the knee, be it, just not getting the ball to Rudy Johnson quite as much. But that defense is on the field longer now, and it's getting more exposed. And with Palmer, who I still don't think is 100% because that was a horrific knee injury, he can't take the opportunities, and he maybe can't step into those throws and complete the passes like he could in the past. He's been sacked an awful lot this year, Sam. He's taken.
Yeah, the offensive line has definitely been prone, and he's been put into a lot of pressure. And I mean, you see him; he still cringes from time to time when he's about to take a hit. Yeah,
and that, like you said, that offensive line has not been the offensive line of last year, and that could be a problem because Cincinnati signed just about all those guys on that offensive line to big contract extensions over the offseason. So I think what happens now is they've either got to figure out that offensive line because it's too late now for the defense to make a wholesale change. They've got to figure out something on that offensive line, just hold on to the ball longer and try to win shootouts.
So you're saying is Cincinnati? I mean, I picked Cincinnati to win the division, and I'm not going to go back on it. I still think that. I mean, there's still a shot.
I picked them as well at the beginning of the season.
So I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to. I mean, if it gets to the point where Baltimore is up by 5 games.
Well, Baltimore's up by 3 games right now. So I think it's pretty close. Right. One of those things that we just have to check the schedule, see how many divisional games they have left.
Right. All right. Well, let's move along. We'll jump right to Cleveland. As we gotta.
Hey, Cleveland, you're not in last place this year, baby. You're tied.
You're tied for last place. Woo! Congrats. But Cleveland defeats Atlanta, and what's going on with Atlanta? Loses to Detroit last week, and they lose to another one of the worst teams in the league in Cleveland. Is it Michael Vick?
I think it's a maturity problem on that team. I think if you look at their wide receivers, they got on that bit of a run in the middle of the season. Vick had 4 touchdown passes against the Steelers. Then I can't remember who they played the next week, but they put on a pretty good offensive show as well. Actually, that might have been last week's game against.
Last week was Detroit.
Well, in any event, these receivers got hot, on a bit of a run over the middle of the season, and now they've regressed. They regressed yesterday against Cleveland. They were dropping passes all over the field. Vic, it still seems like he has the tunnel vision for Algie Crumpler, and they just seem to be having, some miscues on the offense. One of their key plays is, they run with Work Done, they run with Jarius Norwood, and they run with Michael Vick.
Keep in mind, this was earlier in the season. This was the running game. They were putting on, and they had 200 yards at one point in time in one game running the ball, and now they can't seem to get anything done. Vic's fumbling, Vic's throwing picks. They lose to two bad teams. I mean, these are two teams that they should have easily beaten and established themselves in the NFC South to compete with New Orleans.
You can't say that you're a competitor in the NFC South and then lose to Detroit and Cleveland, quite frankly. You cannot say you're a competitor for any division if
you're losing to teams like that.
Especially Detroit. Detroit is
Cleveland's been in some close games. Detroit has just looked very, very bad.
You know, Cleveland plays in the AFC North, and I don't know how many divisional games they play, but that is a tough division.
It's a tough division.
And that is a division that is all predicated and all based on basically run the football. Even Cincinnati with their vaunted, air attack, they still give the ball to Rudy Johnson 20 times a game. Mm-hmm. And those teams, as a result, I think, are just tougher. And Cleveland rather, plays every team tough. They don't.
No, last week, San Diego, they gave it to them for most of the first half, and eventually San Diego comes through.
Yeah, that game, it was more like San Diego realized, holy crap, we've got LaDainian Tomlinson sitting on the bench. He hasn't done anything. Maybe we start handing him the ball. Cleveland, Atlanta rather, is just, they're running like a high school option offense, and that's going to work for a while, but it's not going to work forever in this league. And basically somebody has figured out the offense.
Is Moore on the hot seat?
I don't think Moore's on the hot seat because I think he's gotten them in the playoffs 2 years in a row. And I don't think he's on the hot seat at all because he always keeps that team. Oh, they didn't make the playoffs last year, but he keeps that team in the division race all the time.
But it's hard to say when New Orleans comes out and plays like they have been playing too. Yeah. So got to keep that in mind.
Although the only thing I would say is it doesn't seem like Michael Vick has progressed at all.
I still think he's the same quarterback as he was 5 years ago.
And you can maybe blame him for bringing Greg Knapp as the offensive coordinator who was trying to run that West Coast offense. And we all knew that, you have to make short, accurate passes in the West Coast. That's not Michael Vick's forte. And I think that is maybe something that has hurt him. But by all accounts, Jim Moore has done a good job with that team. I don't think he's on the hot seat.
All right.